Hi everyone. Before we get into it, just want to say that I talk really slow. So if you need to turn the video onto 2 times speed, by all means, please do that now. Um, just to introduce myself, I'm Dawson. I'm currently in my third block of nursing school here at GCU as a part of their ABSN program. I'm heading into finals here in a couple weeks and should be easy breezy, set to pass with flying colors. Thank goodness. Um, so yeah, I thought I'd make a video on how to study in nursing school specifically for this program. This will also be useful if you're at the normal GCU nursing program, not the accelerated one. And yeah, hopefully you can get some good takeaways. I'll break it down on a semester by semester basis, as well as methods that I have found useful personally. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so this is my personal study method that I use for pretty much every exam. Um, I start out by going through lecture videos and using simple nursing. Then I follow that up by going through the weekly Zooms as well as the Explore More. And then I will go over chapter questions plus evolve questions that can be found like via there's like another resource or link in your online library where you can get to those. Um, those are pretty helpful for most of the time. And then also supplement Quizlet here and there as needed. I don't use it so much anymore, but I know semester one I use Quizlet a lot and I found it to be really useful. And then once I get through that, I'll start by going into NCLEX success questions. And then after that, I'll start making some flashcards that I can use to quiz myself or others. And then I'll usually do the Socrative if there is one. And then I'll follow that up by reviewing everything, going over certain topics that I don't really understand that well or need some clarification on. And yeah, that's really what works the best for me. And I'll go into more detail for all this because if you're not familiar with some of these things, then yeah, this might just be foreign to you right now, but I'll get into more detail in it in the following slides. All right, so to start out this video, I'm going to break down the method that I use personally for studying. And when I start studying, I start out by watching lecture videos followed up by simple nursing. So this little clip right here is just me scrolling through the YouTube channel that GCU offers of their recorded lecture videos. So I'll just play that real quick. You can see here that, actually I don't know if you can see it, but this is a private like playlist or whatever you call it. So you don't have, like the public does not have access to this. You will get access to this when you get access to your class. And so yeah, you'll have access at that point. But you can see there that there are a bunch of different topics and they're all on their own material and they're all of varying lengths in time. So when I start out studying, I usually look at the exam blueprint, which you will also get access to when you get access to the class. This tells you what topics will be on each exam. So say for exam 1, you'd have topics 1, 2, and 3. That's usually how it goes, like 2 to 4 topics per exam. So once I see that, then I go into this playlist right here on YouTube. I start by watching all of the lecture videos for the associated topics that will be on the exam, and I have to listen to them at 2 times speed because they talk a little bit slow for my liking, and there's a lot of information to go through. Now, I don't personally take notes on these videos because there's just a wild amount of info to go through, but this is a great resource for getting a foundation on the material for what's going to be on your exam. Now, I'll actually pause here and just say, like, if you don't know what I'm talking about yet, then I'm assuming you're probably not in the program yet, or you're at the very beginning. Like, cool, thumbs up, nice. You're probably at the beginning of the program or not in it yet. So these lecture videos, they're just recorded PowerPoints like this right here, but without this little face circle. And the professor is just walking you through material from like a massive PowerPoint on whatever topic it is. So whether that's like GI system, like hepatitis or whatever, be an entire video on that. Um, so yeah, this is where I start out. Watch all these lecture videos for all the topics that will be on the exam. Sometimes it takes me a whole day because sometimes there's a lot of videos to get through, and you will come to find out that some of these videos can be extremely lengthy. There's been a few times where there's been videos that are like 2+ hours long, and even at 2 times speed, that's like in what, hour 45 that I'm watching it. So usually when you're watching these, you get burnt out. You're just like information overload type of deal. So I typically try to, spend a whole day just watching lecture videos and really trying to absorb that. But I will also supplement that by getting into simple nursing. If you don't know what this is already, I would encourage you to Google it, because simple nursing will be your best friend for this program and for any nursing program. Because what they'll do is they will take the information that will be on your exam and they will break it down for you. When you get simple nursing, which I'll admit is a little pricey, but worth it, you'll be able to see like the mass list of everything that they have. So it'll be topics. So like say it's GI. They'll have a video on peritonitis, and then that video will go into signs and symptoms of peritonitis, what it is, the pathophysiology, medications associated with it, nursing interventions. Literally everything you need to know for your exam will be in simple nursing. Granted, there are times and situations where they just don't have information, like just little niche parts. So for certain classes, simple nursing won't be as useful, but especially after your first semester, simple nursing will become extremely useful. Like I want to take a second and strongly emphasize that, because simple nursing has saved my butt countless times. And if you don't have it and you're already in the program or in a program, get it. You just need to get it. I don't care how much it is for you, if it's pricey, if it's expensive. I don't care if you're doing well in the class. Like, get it. This will make you do better. Simple nursing will be your best friend. All right, now that I'm done harassing you, this is just where I start studying, go into lecture videos, watch all those, and then I get into simple nursing based on the topics and subjects that will be on the exam. All right, so once you're done with the lecture videos and simple nursing, you don't have to be completely done with simple nursing. Definitely go back and look at it as needed. But once you get that solid foundation of information soaked into your brain, then I get into the weekly Zooms and Explore Mores. I start out by going over each weekly Zoom. So per class, you're going to have one Zoom per week. That'll go over practice questions and material, basically just like an actual Zoom call lecture. Pretty helpful for the most part. Occasionally there's like a video where they go over a case study. Like, I personally don't find those as useful, but teach their own. And then Explore Mores, that's just GCU's name for a Zoom call in preparation for an exam. Now, if you're in person, like through the normal program, not the accelerated program, you may have like an in-person Explore More, so that might be a little bit different. But these are recorded, and then they're posted in the announcement portion of your class. So you can get a link and the password to the recorded Zoom call and then watch those. So I watch all the Zooms for all the weeks worth of material that will be on the exam. And then the Explore More Zoom is usually like a decent amount longer than your normal weekly Zoom. Usually it's like 2 hours to 3 hours, but it's heavy on practice questions, which I love. Like that's my favorite part, because practice questions work the best for me, and they go over all the material that will be on the exam. Obviously not everything, but like they're not going to feed you answers or anything. But it's a comprehensive review in preparation for the exam. So this will be on your SharePoint calendar, which if you don't know what that is, you will come to find out once you get into the program. That it'll just be like a little box on your calendar saying that it's live at this time, but if you can't make it to the actual live Explore More, then they'll post the recording of it. I watch the recordings of both the Zooms and the Explore More because I can listen to those at 2x speed, which, like I've said before, is what I prefer to do. So yeah, this is my next step in the process, and as you can see here, it's a little screenshot just of an announcement from, I don't know, like this past week, or literally yesterday, in preparation for my pediatric final exam, the Explore More, at 8 a.m. I was able to make it to that, and then the weekly review, I was not able to make it to that, so I'll watch the recording of both of those probably tomorrow or the next day in preparation for my exam next week. All right, and then once we get through the Zoom calls and the Explore More, then I like to open up the actual textbook, which you're going to have online, and then I go to the end of each chapter relevant to the material that's going to be on the exam. So you can find the chapters that are applicable to your exam on the student course guide in ConHCP. So if you go to your class in ConHCP, you can find the student course guide, and then you scroll down to find exam 3 or exam 1 has topics 1, 2, and 3 on it. So then I find topic 1, I see what chapters from my textbook are in topic 1 or on topic 1 material. And then I do that for topic 2 and topic 3. I write all those down, and then I go to the textbook. And if you scroll to the end of the chapter, in most of the textbooks, that's an asterisk right there, there's usually practice questions at the end. So I'll typically do those. For the most part, they're quite helpful. Some cases and in certain textbooks, there aren't practice questions at the end. So I know that was the case for my for PEDS and OB. They have the same textbook, so they don't have questions at the end of each chapter. Instead, they have questions elsewhere, which we'll get into in the following slide. But usually, especially in level 1, you're going to be doing pharmacology, you got health assessment, you got foundations of nursing. There's usually going to be 10 or so questions at the end of each chapter. So do those, understand the rationale behind them, and you can usually find an explanation of the rationale for each potential answer. There's usually a link somewhere. What did I write here? Yeah, so in your online library, or when you open up your textbook, there might be a little pop-up window on this will be your right side. And so if you click the hyperlink in that little pop-up box, it'll usually send you to another website that will be more resources or more context for the textbook. Included in that is rationale for the questions at the end of each chapter. Those are helpful. It took me a long time to find that. I think it was sometime during semester 2 where I finally figured that out, and it changed the game a little bit for me. Obviously, this isn't the end-all be-all, but these chapter questions are quite helpful. So I mentioned it in the previous slide, but you can find more practice questions directly from the textbook, on Evolve itself. Now, this will be something where you have to go enter the access code or something to actually get access to it. But when you go on to Evolve, there's normally the Evolve actual website. There's normally that first thing that pops up where it's GCU ABSN program. If you go a little bit to the right of that, then you'll see other resources or some other tab. Click that and then scroll down, and you'll see this stuff here. So I'll play this little clip here, but you can see how it says Evolve resources for XYZ book. So that one right there, the Lewis Medical Surgical Nursing book, that one is used in level 2 for med surg as well as in level 3 for critical care. Same book, different classes, but those will give you additional practice questions. And then I also mentioned it in the previous slide, but for pediatrics and obstetrics, so PEDS and OB, there are no practice questions at the end of each chapter in the textbook. So I had to just use the evolve questions. So I would go in here, look at the evolve resources, click on that, and then I would go find my chapter, yada, 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 and then go through the practice questions for each chapter that you wrote down and documented. And then as I would go through each chapter, I would put a check mark and cross it out. Like, for example, here. You probably can't see this, and it's a little messy, but I have check marks across all these chapters that I did. And yeah, I have no clue if you can see that. But I would go through all the chapters, mark them off as I did them. I personally like color coded as I went, so I knew which ones I got done. And these are decent study resources. These work great for me. Practice questions are the best way I have found for studying because they're the most relevant type of learning compared to the exam. So if you're just absorbing information from a lecture video, that's one thing. But if I'm doing the lecture videos first to get the foundation, and then I build on that by getting to practice questions, that makes it so that I'm preparing myself to actually answer more questions on that material during the exam. So I go very heavy on practice questions. Like, I didn't start taking notes until literally this semester. I would just watch videos and do lots and lots of practice questions. It worked great up until recently, so I had to change it up a little bit. But this is my next step in the process. All right, my hat's back on for this clip. But NCLEX success questions, this is my next step. And I actually didn't find this resource until semester 2. So if you get a jump start on this, by all means, use them. These are physical books that you get from like Amazon or a bookstore. It's not something provided by GCU. This is just like an additional resource that you would buy yourself, just like Simple Nursing. But I'm telling you, these come in handy more than you would think. Like, seriously. I can't really downplay that at all. Like, these help a lot. So I use these for med-surg in level 2. There's a different book that is for psych, your psych class in level 2. And then the same med-surg book that is also useful in my level for critical care because it uses the same textbook. It's the same-ish material. Just one class in level 2 looks at the chronic phases of disease, while the current class I'm in, critical care, looks more at the acute phase of the disease. So I go through these questions. There's like chapters based on like body systems and whatnot. So it'd be like GI system or neuro system. And then I would look up in the glossary, or not the glossary, not the first part, the index where it tells you what each chapter is. I would find the material in this book here that relates to the material that will be on my exam. And then I would go there, and it's literally just hundreds of practice questions, which is my thing. Like, that's what I love. And I don't love it, but come on now. Like, it's really helpful. Additionally, these give you in-depth rationales. And so you can mark these up, buy them for yourself. They're usually like 50 or 60 bucks. So not too expensive, but very much worth it. Plus, highlight, they're going to be useful for when you eventually study for your NCLEX. So you're going to get multiple uses out of these books. And then the fact that they have thousands of practice questions comes in super handy. So this is my next step in the process before I get into the next phase. My next phase is kind of a lot, and I'm just now seeing here that my face cuts off part of what's here on this slide. But to wrap up my studying, I start by making flashcards on material. I'll make some notes as well. And then I'll get into Socratives, which are occasionally made and pushed out in the announcements by the professors. And I'll play this little clip for you in case you haven't seen what these are yet. But it's a website. You'll do a student login. You'll put in the room name. Your professor will tell you what this is. It's usually like NSG, your class, or some name. You put that in, then you type your name in, and then it's just a big quiz. So it'll be like multiple choice, select all that apply quiz, and it's useful to get you, again, doing more practice questions on relevant material. You're going to see some stuff that will be reflected upon the exam, just like you would if you were doing the NCLEX success questions and the questions at the back of the textbook. It's all the material that's going to be on your exam, but this is just an additional resource that I use when provided, because it's not always provided, since this resource is just more practice questions, and I find those really useful. Now, I didn't include it here in like a picture format, but sometimes they'll also do Kahoots, which, if you don't know, basically just another form of a quiz. Usually they'll do a Kahoot live format in one of the weekly Zooms or even in the Explore More. And so if you're not participating in that in a live setting, then you can always watch the recording like we've done for the weekly Zooms and the Explore More as previously mentioned, or there will be like a link where you can do it on your own time, just like by yourself. And these are just more practice questions, like I keep saying, because these again get you into the mindset of, all right, this material is on the exam. Here are some potential answers for XYZ question. Here's the rationale for XYZ answer, yada, yada, yada. But I'd like to focus for a second on flashcards and notes. I mentioned this before, I didn't really start getting into notes and making flashcards until this semester in semester 3. That's just because I didn't really have to. I was doing well without that, and it was a little time consuming with the amount of information that we had to go through, that I didn't really feel the need to make notes or flashcards. But I shifted gears this semester just because I wasn't doing as well as I needed. There was some confusing stuff, and flashcards are really helpful, especially if you go through a bunch of practice questions and you're like, okay, this information I don't really understand. I'm going to make flashcards about it and then just roll through it. Or I'll make flashcards on material that I saw back in lecture videos or the weekly Zooms and whatnot. So little tidbits here and there that I deem worthy and necessary of continual like refreshment, then I'll make flashcards for those, and then I'll make notes. A special call out here for pharmacology, you're going to be making drug cards for pharmacology. So these will literally be like a 3x5 card, or maybe even like a bigger card if you can find those, and you'll write down everything about that drug. And when I say everything, you want to write everything, because they're going to quiz you on stuff that is going to catch you out. Pharmacology is no joke of a class. And so that is one exception where, even though I didn't take notes in other classes during my first semester, in pharmacology, I made flashcards a lot. Like, you have to. It's one of your assignments to make those, and they're needed to do well on the exams. So on those, you would put down stuff like, all right, this is my drug. Here's the name. Here's what it does in the body. Here's the pathophysiology behind it. Here are the signs and symptoms associated with giving this drug. Here are adverse effects that can come with giving this drug. Here are contraindications. So like, I wouldn't give it to someone who's pregnant, and I wouldn't give it to someone who drinks heavily. And then I would also put down information on like administration, like, oh, I can give this via IV push, or no, like this is only given via like a continuous IV drip. And then you'd follow that up by nursing considerations and what we call here, I mean, you should know this by now, but we call them CAMs. So like herbs and other meds, like foods, like do not drink grapefruit juice while taking this medicine. If that is ever a question on the exam, or if that is ever a potential option as an answer for the exam, pick it, because you never want to drink grapefruit juice. But anyways, I'm getting a little sidetracked, going too much into pharm, but yeah, this is kind of how I wrap up studying normally. All right, and so just like with everything in nursing school, your timeline for studying is going to vary from week to week, semester to semester, class to class. So sometimes you may only have like really only 3 days to start studying or to study for an exam, just with clinicals, labs, just life. So, yeah, studying timeline can vary a lot, but typically what I try to do is I start studying between 1 week and 3 days prior to an exam. During semester one, I it was it was a it was really hard during semester one. Semester one was the most difficult semester for me, and I think that's the case for pretty much everyone from what I've seen and heard. So my studying during semester one was literally I take an exam and I start studying for my next class's exam or the next exam on the calendar, and then rinse and repeat. And occasionally there would be exams where there's like 2 days between them. And so at that point, I just have 2 days to study everything I need for that next exam. So it gets a little hectic in semester one, less so in semester two and three. You have some more time, so it's not as crazy. But semester one is going to run you ragged. So having better time management than me is really going to benefit you. But that's the method that I used for semester one. But to recap, you're going to start out by watching lecture videos to get a foundation on the material, provide a solid base. That may take you an entire day, may take you half a day. Just depends on the exam, the number of lecture videos, and the length of those lecture videos. Next, I'll get into Zoom calls, like we said, those weekly Zooms in the Explore More. I'll watch all those. I'll do all the practice questions in those videos. Those give more context to the material that you learned during the lecture videos. And then I'll follow that up by doing practice questions found at the end of each chapter, as well as on Evolve. Again, you're getting into that mindset of, all right, I know the material, let's start asking myself some questions on it. And then you'll add on a lot more practice questions by getting into the NCLEX success book for your class. Now, again, some of your classes may not have an NCLEX success book. That's okay. It's not always needed. Like recently, I haven't been using the NCLEX success book, and I've been doing just fine. But still, there's going to be a lot of times where you're going to want that because there's some real gold in those questions. And then the next step along the way would be making flashcards on material that I've gone over already and I need a little bit more refreshing on it, need a little bit more clarification. So I'll make notes and or flashcards on it. Be like, okay, the next day I'll be going over, I'll quiz myself on these. Or if I'm meeting up with a study group or meeting up at school with the rest of my cohort, I'll be like, hey guys, like, can you quiz me on this stuff? Or your own notes, can you quiz me on stuff that you've written down? So that's the flashcards and notes portion. I'll also be doing the Socrative and Kahoots, if there are those, by around the same time. And then you'll wrap up by reviewing with yourself as well as quizzing others. Now that's really been helpful for me. You run information by others. You'd be like, all right, my classmate, let's try to think of a name that's not in my class. My classmate, Jonah. Here's a question for you. What do you think the answer is? And then they think of an answer, you discuss it. And then you run through a bunch of those scenarios, and then they'll flip it, and they'll do it to you. So you get the kind of idea. Now the timeline here, like day by day, if you only have 3 days to study, lecture videos the first day. If you can manage to squish in Zoom calls, do those as well during the first day. And then the next day, dedicate to as many practice questions as you can. And then the last day, more practice questions if you have them left, followed by flashcards and Socrative, Kahoot, whatnot, and then reviewing with others. So that's like a 3-day timeline of studying if you're in a crunch. Obviously, don't do that if you don't have to. It's the information will sink in better the longer period that you have, and if you're able to review all of said material again. So say you have a week or 6 days. If you do the 3-day timeline, you can repeat said 3-day timeline of studying again. And I know that's a lot. I get it. But if you're in a situation of, I'm not doing well in this class, I need to do really well on this next exam, and you have 6 days until the next exam, that's what I would do if I were in those shoes. So this is my timeline for my method of studying, And next we'll get into some more details related to each semester. All right, so semester one's going to be difficult. If you're watching this, there's a good chance you're probably in semester one and you need some help along the way. There's a steep learning curve in semester one, so I don't blame you. In this semester, you're going to have foundations, health assessment, pharmacology, and intro to professional nursing. We know that as 310. The outliers for this semester are pharmacology and 310. For pharm, you're going to need those drug cards, as we've talked about. It's very heavy on memorization, so trying to figure out ways of just like absorbing the information like crazy is going to be the way that I would advise and the way that worked for me. I found it a little late in the semester during semester one, but Pixorize videos, you can find them online. Some of them are free, some of them you have to pay for. For the most part, I think me and my study group, we just use the free ones. These break down medications and like their adverse effects, contraindications, what they do, where they come in the body. It'll show you like an image on the screen, and there's like a bunch of stuff going on in said image. It'll be like a bunch of people going crazy with like a bunch of objects all over the place. But then the guy narrating the video will break down each portion of that image and be like, okay, like remember like this strand of ribbon for torsade de pointe. If you don't know that already, you're going to learn it soon. Torsade de pointe is going to have an impact on your QT rhythm or EKG, affects your heart rhythm. And then it will go into detail about another one or like another aspect of that image. Those help like just absorbing the information into your head in a visual sense, which is helpful to me because I'm a bit of a visual learner. So like during the exam, I'd see a medication, be like, okay, I remember this medication. But like I don't really remember, I don't really remember the specific adverse effects associated with said medication. So then I would try to recall, like, okay, I remember the image from the picturized video, and so let me try to visualize everything that was going on there and then pick it apart piece by piece. Because if the question's asking about like an adverse effect, then and all the answers are like potential adverse effects, you're going to need to get really nitty gritty with it and get into the specifics. So having that visualization in the back of my head was really helpful for me. I don't have a photographic memory, but not too far from it. So I could like pull up those images in the back of my head, be like, all right, I remember a lot of this stuff going on. I'll pick it apart piece by piece, that image from the video, and then be like, okay, I can single this out. Like I remember that ribbon for torsade de pointe. And then I look at like my test and I see that's a potential answer. I'm like, okay, let's see what the question's asking. Like, yeah, that's the right answer. And then boom. So that's how you can remember some of those answers or some of the information for pharmacology. It was really helpful for me. You're also going to go crazy on the drug cards for pharm. What me and my study group did especially for the final, because we were all really stressed out for the pharmacology final. It's a stressful class, so I don't mean to scare you by saying that, but it is. We basically lived with each other for the last week of school, and we'd wake up, we'd make food for each other, and or like we'd get over to each other's house, we'd make food, and then we'd start studying right away. Be like, all right, I have a flashcard, I have my drug card of digoxin. There's a medication that you're going to see. Tell me everything you know about digoxin. And so then you're over there trying to rack your brain about literally everything about digoxin, and you're just word vomiting it all. And then your classmate or whoever's quizzing you will be like, okay, what else? Or give you hints and be like, all right, well, what's the therapeutic level of digoxin? And then you've got to be like, all right, well, it's probably da-da-da-da. Oh, I remember it's this, yada, yada, yada. So we would go through that endlessly. And I'm telling you, that got us through pharmacology. Like the fact that we were with each other, like our study group, almost nonstop, like to the point where I didn't even see my roommate for almost a week and a half before finals because I was always with my study group. Um, like doing that, like go overboard if you have to, by all means, like especially in level one, because that's the weed out semester, and pharmacology is, in my mind, the weed out class. So that would be my advice for that. And I know I've talked your ear off about pharm, but it's got to be said because that's a very difficult class. Now for 310, that's heavy on history. It's not particularly difficult. It can catch some people out because it's not really nursing related. It's like, oh, who like founded the theory of nursing or da 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 da. Like who founded XYZ theory of nursing? Who founded this other theory of nursing? There's like Florence Nightingale and like Carl Watson and all these names and stuff. So there's Quizlets for that online that you can find that other students have made in the past. You make flashcards about it. You just quiz each other. That's all really useful for 310. Now, foundations and health assessment, they're fairly straightforward, or at least they were for me, using that method that I just ran through with you in all the previous slides. So there's not a whole lot to worry about that. Health assessment, also known as 316, can catch some people out, but if you run through enough questions with each other and talk it out, you should be okay. Same thing for foundations, because that can also catch some people out occasionally. But by and large, it's pharmacology that will be the one to fail you if it does. So putting more emphasis into that class, in my mind and opinion, is worth it. So I've also said this again before, but in semester one, time management is key. I wasn't particularly good at it, and I may do, but it's your enemy. So it's going to be difficult to study efficiently and study well. So trying to get a grasp on that sooner rather than later will that'll really benefit you if you get a good grasp on studying effectively early in the semester, because you're going to have a very, very steep learning curve very fast at the beginning of the semester. Because you're going to get, it's like drinking water from a fire hose at the beginning, information wise. So getting your methods down, getting dedicated, and because like your motivation is going to come and go. I've lost motivation countless times through this program, but if you stay dedicated, you're going to be just fine. So staying dedicated and just doing stuff, even through the suck, through the burnout, through all of it, that'll get you through, especially in level one, because it's going to be tough, but you got it. And lastly, finals. They're going to be heavy. Don't say that to scare you. Just keep that in the back of your head. Like, there's a lot of info to go through, and it's in a short time frame. Usually how it's scheduled, this was the case for me, and from what I've seen, it's the case still. You have all 4 of your finals in a 3-day time span. So it'll be like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And on Wednesday, you have 2 finals. Usually it's like 310 and pharmacology. So figuring out a good study method going into finals and like time management for studying, there we go, will definitely benefit you. So that'd be my advice from someone who made it through the other side of level 1, semester 1. That would be my advice for studying during this semester. And just to show you guys, provide a little evidence for you real quick. These are my results from level 1. Not too terribly pretty, but also we made it through to the other side, so we're all good. So I blacked out the instructor's name just for the sake of privacy, but here you can see NSG 300, which is Foundations in Nursing. I got a C+ in that. You also got to keep in mind the grading scale in nursing school is very different than the normal grading scale. So this C+ would normally be like a B flat in normal grading scale. 310 did fine with the B-. 316 I got a B. And pharmacology, which was the class that I was worried about, like the only class I was genuinely worried about, I got a C+ in that after the final, because I think I needed like a 70 or 72 on the final. Managed to swing out with the 78 if I recall correctly, And so we made it through to the other side. But that's just to show you that it's possible. Your grades may not look pretty, but if you make it through, then honestly, C's get degrees. Like, you may not be going to CRNA school, but you'll get that RN license regardless. All right, and then for semester 2 studying, you're going to have Adult Health Nursing 1. You're going to have Psych Nursing and Research Evidence Based Practice, is what EVB means. So, Med-Surg and Psych will have exams. Your research class is just like a papers and project class. And you may notice during the semester you have one less class. So, you're going to have less DQs to do, which is a massive blessing. Excuse me. Now med-surg is a little bit difficult, so you might find that a little bit challenging because you're switching gears from mainly memorization to now you have to like absorb it and start really heavily critically thinking. So using that normal study process that I went through towards the beginning of the video worked well for me during med-surg and beyond. Well, basically from the beginning of the program, but especially for classes moving forward. So use that normal study process unless you have another one that works well for you, and you should be okay. But it's heavy on pathophysiology, and disease processes. Like I said before, you're focusing more on the chronic stages of diseases and just chronic diseases in general during this class. So it all starts to kind of come together a bit during this class. You're starting to see like, okay, like I feel like we're actually doing some nursing stuff now. Like it's kind of exciting. But exam 3, special point out for that one in med-surg. That one's on GI system, and it is notoriously known to be quite difficult. So prepare yourself for that. I got a 66 on it. 3 people in our entire cohort passed that exam. If you fail it, don't feel bad. Like it's a very hard exam. So starting out strong in that class by hitting the ground running, you don't necessarily have to start studying over break. I don't even really think that's entirely possible. But yeah, starting the ground running with a running start, making sure you're staying on top of studying, making sure you're staying dedicated, even when your motivation is tanking, that will help you a lot. Because if you get a good exam score on your first exam and even your second one, then that third exam, which is known to be difficult and fail, like a lot of people fail it, that hit to your grade won't be as significant if you came out swinging with exam 1 and 2. And then simple nursing for this class will be very helpful. Watch all those videos, go through all that stuff. It'll make sense to you. You'll be able to digest it. And then we get into psych, which is not necessarily difficult. It's just different. And some people found it to be difficult. I was a psych major with my first degree. I did psych and pre-med. Obviously, life had different plans, and here I am. But so yeah, a lot of that stuff in psych to me came a little bit naturally, or it was like a second nature to me. Of course, you're going to have medications in psych, so you're going to want to use picturized videos for that, as we've mentioned previously. But also, when you're going through questions in your psych class, you want to prioritize patient safety and therapeutic communication. But always patient safety first. That's your big one. So say your patient is dealing about, how do I say this to where I don't get censored on YouTube? They're thinking about certain bad thoughts in their head regarding their own life, if you catch my drift. Then you would want to prioritize your patient safety and look through the question, look through the answers, figure out which one makes the most sense for the safety of your patient, and then go with that one. So this is why it's very helpful to run through a bunch of practice questions, because the questions in psych can be very different, and it caught a lot of my classmates out because it was just different. It's not clear, cut, and dry. Like a lot of the answers make sense, and this is a hallmark of nursing school. Like all the questions are orange, but which orange is the right orange? or all of the answers are orange, but which is the right orange? Um, that you kind of see that, especially in psych, in those questions. So if you do a lot of practice questions, you start to pick up on the nuances of the answers and which one is actually right. Now, that is especially true when we're talking about therapeutic communication, because you're going to want to take into account the mental state and emotional state of your patient, within the context of said question. And you're going to be like, okay, which, like, all the answers are going to be potential things you would say to your patient, right? But then you locate which one is the most therapeutic and and takes into consideration the emotional well-being of your patient, if that makes any sense at all. And then if you run through enough of those questions, if it doesn't naturally click with you, you'll start to pick up on that drift, and then it'll get easier and easier. So that's why I say psych is different, but not necessarily difficult, because it can be difficult, but it's just different. Because it's not like, what does this med do? And there's one right answer. It's like, what is the right thing to say to this patient? And all the potential answers could be right, but which one is the most right? And I mean, that's nursing school for you. But this is my advice going into semester 2. It's going to be a little bit easier just because your workload's a little bit less. You're starting to feel like an actual student nurse because you're doing more stuff in clinicals. You're learning like actual nursing and pathophys and like disease processes and stuff and med surg and psych. So just prepare yourself with this advice if you deem it good. And I think it'll really help you, because this worked well for me. All right, and then to show you the results of semester 2 for this was my spring 2024 semester, adult health nursing, or 320, which is also known as med surg. I got a B minus in that. Psych, otherwise known as 322, or behavioral health nursing, I got a B flat in that. And then my research class, I got an A in that because I find papers to be easier. So it's not nearly as difficult as semester 1 by far. At the same time, like, we did lose, we lost a couple classmates during the semester. I think going into the final, they were a few points, or after the final, they were a few points shy of passing, which was really unfortunate and sad. But for the most part, this is a relatively smooth sailing semester, as long as you don't lose your dedication and lose sight of the end goal. Some of this material can be challenging, like I've just said, but using some good study methods as I've gone over, or others that you've developed yourself, if you see them benefiting you and some good fruits of your labor, then by all means, you should be set. And then this is my current semester, which I'm in right now, as of making this video. This is semester 3. I got a couple weeks before finals come into play, and I'm sitting pretty going into finals, so should be set going into semester 4. But you have adult health nursing 2, which is also known as critical care. You have obstetrics, or OB, and pediatrics, or peds, as well as leadership ethics. Leadership ethics is that one class that you typically have each semester, which is only just like papers and projects and DQs and assignments. There's no exams in that class. Now, critical care is the acute side of your med surg class that you took in semester 2. So semester 2, you're focusing primarily on the chronic side of diseases and illnesses. In semester 3, my semester, you're looking at the acute side of diseases. So the same studying process has worked very well for me. There was one exam that I bombed because I'm not that great on the cardiac system, but I managed to absolutely kill it on these last couple of exams to bring my grade back up. But practice questions, simple nursing, great for this class in semester 3. And then just my normal process has been very beneficial. Now, OB can be difficult. just because it's different. The same process that we've gone over works well. You got to understand the patho and processes um, behind diseases and like what did we learn? Like fetal cord compression, like what that does to the baby. So you gotta use your critical you gotta put your critical thinking cap on a lot during that class, just like any other class, but especially for this one. Fetal monitoring was something that I specifically struggled with um, in this class. Can be a bit hard to grasp. Some people picked up on it better than others. I was not one of those. But by and large, it's pretty straightforward using that normal process, as we've said. Now, same thing goes for pediatrics or the pediatric class. There's actually some like weirdly beneficial overlap with critical care. Like, for example, not too long ago, we had a pediatric exam, and while I was studying for it, I was like getting a bit of deja vu, being like, we just learned this material. Why am I feeling this way? Like, it almost seems a little too simple and straightforward. But we had just gone over similar material, and in some cases, the same material in critical care. So there's some overlap there, even with the timeline of like your exams. So that can be beneficial when you're studying for peds and critical care. There's a little bit of overlap that you may find to be making it easier while you're studying. So again, practice questions, quizzing each other has been really helpful for pediatrics. But by and large, semester 3 has been easier than expected for me. It is known to be the semester that is the most difficult. Which makes sense because we're very busy. The exams are difficult, but it's doable. Because like the saying goes, if you don't fail level 1, the other time that you could fail, for like in most cases, would be level 3. So semester 3 this semester. But yeah, it's been pretty good for the vast majority of my cohort and everyone in this semester. All right, so a special note for OB and PEDS during level 3 is that the format is a little bit different. These two classes are split up half and half. So the first half of the semester, you're going to have either OB or PEDS, not both. And then halfway through the semester, you're going to have a final for whatever class you're taking. And then after that final, you're going to switch to pediatrics or whatever, pediatrics or OB, the other class, for the remainder of the semester. So in our case, it was that we had OB first, and then we had our OB final in week 8. And then after that final, we immediately started pediatrics, or the PEDS class. So it makes it very, very information dense, which is why it makes it a little bit difficult and notoriously known to be a very difficult semester. Yeah, so each point is worth more during this class. So this isn't study related, but like when you're doing DQs and participation and all that stuff, stay on top of that because each point is worth double because it's compressed. So like your normal semester points worth, it's gonna be half of the time, but the same points. So each week is worth more and each exam is worth more. So this also translates to the length of exams. You're gonna have 75 questions on those exams normally, where like the case for critical care, like med surgeon level 2 and all the other exams, like your normal exams, like even the ones in level 1, you're normally gonna have 50 questions on that exam until you get to the final. That changes when you get into OB and PEDS because your normal exam is 75 questions. But you have 3 exams. You have exam 1, 2, and then the final. And the final was like, it was like 100 plus questions. I can't remember really, but it was like it was either 100 or 150 questions. So it's a lot, and you're sitting there for a long time. So just keep that in mind. Like there's some nuances for this specific semester. plus fellow guys out there, you may find OB to be a little bit difficult. All you ladies out there, it's probably going to come pretty easy to you. But I know the guys and I in my cohort, while we were taking OB, there's a bit more of a learning curve for us, just because we're learning about women's health and we're not overly familiar with that, like women are. So yeah, just minor note there. Just keep all this stuff in mind once you get into level 3, or if you're in it. And then currently, these are my grades for semester 3 as it stands today. I have a 91 in pediatrics, 80% in critical care, and 90% in leadership ethics. My final grade for OB was an 84. That was my grade, my permanent grade. That'll go on my transcript since we already finished the final for that class. The rest are pending the final exam score. But then, like, those are decent grades, I would say so. But then you look at the letter grades according to nursing school standards, and it doesn't look as pretty. So take it with a grain of salt, and taking it on the chin is what I'm trying to do. But yeah, and then it's nice because I only have to get like a 68% in critical care to pass the class, and then significantly lower in pediatrics to pass that class. And then for leadership ethics, we have a couple more projects and yada yada to get done. But this is my current grades, since I don't have final grades yet, like in the other classes where I showed my transcript. So yeah. And then semester 4, I'm about a month away from starting, so obviously I don't have any advice yet for semester 4, but I will update accordingly, probably towards the end of the program, once I actually have some advice to give. But I do know that we have the classes of population health, transition to practice, and the evidence-based capstone project. The capstone project is going to be just like another paper or another class that has no exams, just like papers and stuff, as far as I know. Transition to practice and population health will have exams, again, as far as I know. So yeah, can't really tell you a whole lot because I don't know a whole lot, but yeah. And then just to wrap up for y'all, just a quick little recap. All of us are going to study differently. So if you find anything useful from anything that I've gone over today, by all means, take it and use it. But if you have other methods that work well for you and have proven success, then stay using those. Obviously, I don't want any of you to procrastinate. I've been there myself, done that. We all have. I don't want any of you to cram, because I've been there, done that, and it's not always great. It puts a lot more stress on you. But whatever the case is, I strongly encourage you to find your method of solid studying quickly and be able to adapt as needed according to the semester and class. Because there's obviously that steep learning curve at the beginning of this program, just as there is with any nursing program. And there's a solid chance you're going to fail an exam, at least one. I've failed 4 to 5 exams, I think maybe even 6. And I'm going to be moving on to level 4, which is wild to say, because there have been a crazy amount of times where I did not think that was going to be the case. So as long as you're willing to learn from your mistakes, adapt as needed, take advice and critiques from professors, from classmates that are, it sounds bad, but that are doing better than you in a particular class that you're struggling in, then you should be set. Now, I also want to say, like, reading the textbook is fine and all. Some of my classmates do that, like, religiously, and they find use in that. I do not. I'm, like, the farthest from it. I don't open up the textbook unless I have to, which, sorry, any professors or anyone at GCU, that makes me look really bad, but it's not the best way that I found to study. I find more use in PowerPoints, in lecture videos, in more tangible things than just words on a page. So find something that works for you, stick with it, and run with it. I would strongly advise go crazy hard on practice questions, just because that has worked well for me and my peers, my classmates. But you could be different. You could absorb information a lot better by just reading the textbook. I have a classmate like that, and she's doing very well. So whatever the case is, take my advice for whatever it's worth. Learn from yourself and others, adapt, and just be willing to take failures on the chin as they come, but also don't let that get you too down, because I've been there. We all have. Like, there's been many car rides back with my classmates where we're just sitting in silence because one of us didn't do well on an exam, and that blows. It's not fun. Like, we all know that suck and that burnout, that fatigue that you get in this program. So you're going to encounter that, and that's just a reality of it. On the rare occasion you don't experience that, great. If you don't ever experience that during this program, awesome, kudos to you. But more often than not, you're going to experience that at some point, whether it's burnout, fatigue, tears, whatever it is, doubts, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, you name it. There's going to be every scale of emotion you're going to experience during this program. So stay dedicated. Don't let motivation drive you. Let your own dedication drive you. And you'll see the fruits of your labor if you stick with that, and that'll bring your spirits up. I know it has for me. And as long as you don't lose sight of the end goal, which is that nursing degree, to become a nurse, then you'll get there. So hopefully you found some use in this. If not, I apologize, but wish all the best to y'all, and hopefully I'll see you around.